The sun was just beginning to set over Tondo, Manila, casting a warm glow across the narrow streets where children played, vendors shouted their last calls, and jeepneys rumbled through the crowded lanes. In the middle of all this everyday chaos were two young boys, Jiro and Kenken, both just 11 years old, who had created a world of their own through music. Every day after school, they rushed to their favorite corner near an old sari-sari store where an overturned wooden crate served as their stage and tin cans became their makeshift drums. With a borrowed Bluetooth speaker that sometimes worked and sometimes didn't, they would blast simple hip-hop beats downloaded by a friend from an internet cafe. Despite their young age, the boys carried themselves with a confidence that surprised the people around them. Their rap lyrics weren't just random words, they were stories about their neighborhood, about growing up Filipino, about helping their families, about dreams that felt too big for the small places they lived in. Locals passing by would often stop to listen, clapping along or recording the boys on their phones. One man joked, "Oy, baka maging sikat pa yang dalawang iyan." Hey, maybe those two will become famous someday. But deep down, Jiro and Kenken wished the same thing. Their favorite audience member was always the little girl from next door, Mila, who would sit cross-legged on the pavement and shout, "Go kuya! Kaya enyo, yen." Her encouragement pushed them to rap louder, sharper, and with more fire. Sometimes they would perform until it was so dark that they couldn't even see their notebook of lyrics. Life in Tondo wasn't easy. Their families worked long hours, and money was always tight. But for Jiro and Kenken, music was not just a hobby, it was hope. It was the one thing that made them feel bigger than the problems around them. Even when their speaker malfunctioned or rain suddenly poured, they never stopped. Every small performance was practice. Every word they rhymed was fuel. And every clap from their neighbors made their secret dream feel just a little closer. One day, somehow, they wanted the world to hear them. The day of the audition arrived, and Jiro and Kenken could hardly believe they were actually walking into the massive arena of Asia's Got Talent in Makati. The bright lights, the huge cameras, and the echo of their own footsteps on the polished floor made their hearts race. Their families had come along, holding their hands, whispering words of encouragement. "Kaya enyo, yen, anak," their mothers said. "Show them your heart, your talent." The boys nodded nervously, clutching their little notebook of lyrics that they had memorized 100 times but still felt shaky about. When it was finally their turn, they stepped onto the stage, and a hush fell over the audience. The spotlight hit them, making the two small boys seem even smaller in the vast auditorium. Simon Cowell, sitting in the judges' panel, raised an eyebrow and leaned back, clearly skeptical. "Well, let's see what we have here," he muttered, a hint of doubt in his voice. Jiro tapped the beat on the speaker while Kenken cleared his throat. And then it happened. The first line of their rap burst into the room with energy, rhythm, and words that told a story of life in Manila, about waking up early, school struggles, family love, and dreams that felt bigger than their small neighborhood. The boys moved with confidence, their tiny hands gesturing, their voices sharp and clear. The audience started clapping, the rhythm contagious, and soon everyone was on their feet. Simon's eyes widened. Even the other judges were surprised. The boys' swag, the perfect timing, the way they owned the stage despite their size, it was impossible to ignore. Each verse brought more energy, more charisma, and more connection with the crowd. The boys weren't just performing, they were sharing their life, their struggles, and their joy in a way that made everyone in the room feel it. By the end of the performance, the auditorium erupted into cheers. Jiro and Kenken looked at each other, panting, smiling, and laughing nervously. They had done it, they had brought the streets of Tondo to the grand stage, and for the first time, they felt like their dream was not just theirs anymore, it belonged to everyone watching. After the performance, Jiro and Kenken stood on the stage, breathing heavily, their hearts still racing from the adrenaline. The audience was on their feet, clapping and cheering so loudly that the sound seemed to shake the entire arena. Confetti floated in the air as the hosts tried to regain control, but all anyone could talk about were the two young Filipino rappers who had just lit up the Asia's Got Talent stage. Simon Cowell, known for his sharp critiques and hard-to-impress persona, leaned forward in his chair, his eyes wide with genuine astonishment. For once, there was no smirk, no sarcasm, just surprise and admiration. "I did not expect that," Simon said, his British accent cutting through the cheering. "You two walked in shy, looked like any other kids, and then, you became absolute stars. The energy, the rhythm, the way you told your story, it was incredible. You brought real swag to this stage." The boys' faces lit up with shock and joy. Jiro could barely speak, tears welling in his eyes, while Kenken bounced slightly, trying to contain his excitement. Simon continued, "This is exactly why we do this show, to find talent that surprises the world. You showed us that age doesn't matter. Talent doesn't wait. And the way you represented the streets of Manila, your families, and your culture, wow. Truly amazing." Even the other judges were clapping, nodding, and smiling broadly. The crowd kept chanting the boys' names, their voices echoing throughout the arena. Jiro and Kenken glanced at each other, both realizing in that moment that every late-night practice, every rhyme written on scraps of paper, every beat tapped on a tin can, it had all led to this moment. Their families rushed on stage to hug them, tears streaming down their faces. "We're so proud of you," their mothers shouted, their voices breaking with emotion. For the two young rappers from Tondo, it wasn't just about winning a competition anymore. It was about showing the world that talent, heart, and hard work could shine from even the smallest streets. Simon's words lingered in their minds. They were no longer just kids with dreams, they were the little rappers who brought swag to the world stage, and nothing would ever be the same again.